there, I'm Pat O'Brien, and this morning we're going to go visit John Wells at the Field Lab. And we're leaving from my cabin here, and John's place is about 5 miles from here. So buckle up, let's hit it. Tell me who you are, where I am, and what your website is.
Okay, my name is John Wells, and you are at the Southwest Texas Alternative Energy and Sustainable Living Field Laboratory, otherwise known as the Field Lab. My website is, well, I've got a couple. There's www.thefieldlab.org, and then I've got a blog at thefieldlab.blogspot.com.
Cool. And here we are out in the middle of the Chihuahua Desert.
Chihuahua Desert, yep. Yep, this is it. My 60 acres of the hellish paradise I call Terlingua.
All right. You want to show me around?
Sure. There's cow poo.
Cow poo, that's good.
One of my live webcams that live streams video all day, which I started off just fun. It's gotten beat up a few times by a burro who knocks it over. So, this is going to be the greenhouse courtyard eventually when I get this building closed in. I'm going to level this patio off in here and put pavers down and do raised bed gardening in there, and hopefully produce all my own food eventually, which is the ultimate goal here at the Field Lab.
And you built this yourself, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah. This has been 2 years in the making so far. Did all the welding myself. I did have help from a crane to position 2 of the shipping containers, but the rest were placed close to where I needed them, and I jacked them up with car jacks and pulled them with chains and come-alongs to get them squared off and lined up and leveled, and the roofing started. And I built one of these trusses just to test the design, and it seemed to be pretty good, so I built the rest of them. Each truss there's 6 of them. Each truss has 400 feet of half-inch rebar in it. It took me about 10 days to weld together and place each truss. And the roofing took about 6 weeks to put on, and I've got my gutters in place now. And I'm about to plumb in some water tanks on the east side of the building that the gutters will drain into. This roof is big enough, 1,500 gallons of water per inch of rain. So I'll need 8 inches of rain to fill the 12,000 gallons of storage tanks I'll have on this building.
Let's look at this. This is composed of 4 containers.
4 shipping containers. Yeah, I got sort of enamored with the idea of using these, and they're kind of silly when it comes right down to it because they're expensive now. You'd think they're cheap because they talk about how many we have sitting in shipyards around the country from all the, all the merchandise coming from China, and we're not sending anything out in these containers. But since there's sort of a mystique of using these for building now, they've driven the price up on them. You used to be able to get a hold of a 20-foot shipping container for $800 if you could haul it away yourself, but some of the companies are selling them now for $2,000 a piece. I got mine for $3,200, including delivery here. And another reason I decided to go ahead and use these is because I've seen so many things on the internet about shipping container houses, and 90% of what you see on the internet are computer renderings of what you could do with a shipping container. And the other 10% are multi-million-dollar houses that people have spent, $500, $600, $700 a square foot on using shipping containers. So I'm trying to do this whole building at about $65,000 with the containers, the roof, the patio, closing in all the ends, and I'll spend a couple more thousand to finish off the inside of two of the shipping containers. One's going to be my new house, and one's going to be an office and a workshop. And they'll both have glass doors facing into the courtyard, so the courtyard will be sort of part of my new living space, with the jungle I hope to create in there someday with vegetables and fruit trees and such. So,
To look around at where we are today. And when's your estimated completion date?
well, I hope to get this closed in by this summer and start planting some stuff. I've got a couple of tomato plants now and some wheatgrass experiments. I'm testing the soil out here with some of my cow manure. And I hope to get some more vegetables growing before the building's all closed in, but I really need to close it in and put doors on to keep the critters out and create a somewhat climate-controlled zone to grow in. One of the biggest problems out here, other than critters getting your plants, is the winds. They can really shred things when it gets windy out here, so this is going to be isolated from the outside, my own little desert ecosphere here. So we shall see if it all comes together, but hopefully by the late summer I'll have it all closed in and start setting up my raised beds. And if the vegetable thing doesn't work out, I can always grow all marijuana and then manufacture crystal meth in the containers. So
That sounds like a pretty good plan.
that's my alternative marketing plan.
Well, I think the vegetable plan is going to be a really good one.
Yeah, I think that's going to work out more to my advantage. In fact, I asked the tax assessors about that when they came out. I applied for a homestead exemption for my land here, which lowered my taxes. And I was talking to them about agricultural exemptions, and they sort of gave me the rules on that. And I asked them, well, does marijuana and crystal meth count? And they said no. So I don't think that's going to be a viable option.
Well, okay, how are you powering all this? You've got some electricity, right?
Yeah, it's all solar right now. I've got about 600 watts of solar power and everything. My power requirements are pretty minimal. I run a couple of computers and a webcam, and everything's 12 volt. So I've got 6, 8, 10 batteries that store all that electricity, and I'm pretty much fully charged by 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just using extra after that. There comes some more fertilizer from Benita.
Yeah.
Thank you, Benita.
A little methane.
Did you know that cows don't fart their methane? They burp it. That's a little fact that might be interesting for you.
I had no idea.
This is the first set that I've had out here. These are pretty filthy right now because I haven't cleaned them lately. These still work pretty well, even though they're kind of dirty. Like I said, I'm fully charged by 10 o'clock in the morning, but I rarely run my batteries down more than 25% of their capacity. So this charges everything up pretty quickly. These are split. These 18 panels here are split into charging two different sets of batteries in the house here. And these at the time when I came out here were the cheapest deal. These were Harbor Freight 15-watt solar panels. Each panel is 15 watt. And just in the 3 years I've been out here, the price of solar has dropped so much that these are now not really a very good deal. You can get better panels for less money, and these come with no warranty. The new panels I have now are 20-year warranty on output, so if they lose more than 15% of their output in 20 years, I get a new panel. So, but
Well-
these have been working good for me, I have to say.
Well, what's interesting to me, and I'm coming at it from the other side. I've got more batteries and less panels, and it looks to me like I need to beef up my panels, really.
Yeah, you got to balance the system. You got to, if you have too many batteries, you're never going to get them fully charged, and you're going to be dragging them down quicker. It's always better to have more solar than batteries than the other way around. That way, you're always charging. Even as I'm using power during the day, I'm not even taking anything from the batteries. It's just the excess that's coming in from the solar panels. So it's late in the afternoon when the sun starts going down that I start using the power from the batteries, and like I said, my power usage is so minimal. It's I barely use much capacity that I have.
So how many batteries are you running?
Well, I've got two 6-volt golf cart batteries and two 12-volt AGMs that are being powered here. The AGMs are the newer technology. They tend to put them in motorhomes because they don't off-gas hydrogen like the lead-acid batteries do. And I set those two systems up just to compare the two types of batteries, and I haven't really noticed any difference between the two other than the lead-acid batteries. The 6-volt golf cart batteries need to be cleaned and watered, a couple times a year. So now I've got 260 watts out here where I used to have a wind farm. I had 4 wind turbines up out here, and that I experimented with when I first came out, and they worked pretty well, but the winds just really aren't consistent enough out here to rely strictly on wind power. And we had a few storms that shredded 1 or 2 of them. In fact, one of them lost its hub and blades, and I found that a quarter of a mile away. So I sort of am off wind for now, and just solar. I might put up a couple of dummy turbines again someday, just so they're up there spinning around, and or I could put flags on the poles. I got the wiring's all there. I could actually light the flags at night. So
there you go.
Now, in the battery house out there that I have the solar hooked up to now, that's got an inverter in it, and that inverter's been on for 24 hours a day for like a year and a half. Never a problem with it, and it's constantly pumping 110 volt AC back to the house if I have something else I want to run. And even with that, I'd never drag those batteries down much past 75% of their full capacity.
What's that in terms of volts?
Well,
Like, is that what I'm reading? Like I might get up as high as 13.
okay. This battery bank here is during the day when the sun's out, they're trickle charging at about 14.2 volts, and and the charge controller comes on and off and just kind of keeps them at that level. And then once I start using the power, they start going down, and I think I drag that bank down to maybe 12.8 volts overnight, but never much more than that. I do have a charger that I can plug into a generator if we get a long string of cloudy days out here and I start having a problem with power that way, but I've never even used it since I've been out here. It's just in place just in case. We seem to have 340 sunny days a year here with a couple of cloudy days, and the longest stretch of cloudy days I've had since I've been out here was 5 days. And even then, I had to trim my usage a little bit, but it wasn't really a problem.
Well, again, with your ratio of panels to batteries.
Right.
Oh, since we're standing here.
Yeah. Oh, the solar fryer. Wait, let's see if we can set something on fire here. Let me turn it on. The sun's still a little low, but I might be able to get this piece of wood smoking if I hold it under here long enough. Basically, this is just an old TV satellite dish, and I've lined the surface with mirrors. So instead of bouncing back what would be your satellite signal to a focus point, it's bouncing back the sun's rays. And as you can see, it gets pretty bloody hot under there.
So you've got a parabolic reflector gathering the light and focusing it on one point pretty much.
Yeah.
And what we have here is a piece of burning wood. And that took what, 15 seconds?
Something like that, yeah. So this just, as the sun's focusing underneath this plate, this gets really hot, and I can actually place a pan on this and heat soup or cook with it. I tried Jiffy Pop, and it just wasn't quite hot enough for Jiffy Pop, because Jiffy Pop isn't a show in itself. So,
right.
No, this gets pretty good.
Well,
I checked the temperature with an infrared thermometer, and it was about 550 degrees at the focus point.
and that wouldn't do popcorn, huh?
Now, because it wouldn't spread out enough. Even setting it on here, I had a thing sitting up here for like 45 minutes and pop, one or two kernels pop, but it just wasn't quite enough. Ouch.
Well, maybe a bigger dish.
Yeah, definitely. I have a 12-foot satellite dish I experimented with in New York, and I had it set up with 21-foot square mirrors on it, and I was getting 650 degrees at the focus point.
And that's in New York.
Yeah, and that was in New York, and that was actually during the wintertime I had it set up. It was about 10 degrees. It was a sunny day, no wind, but the outside ambient temperature was only 10 degrees, and I was boiling water in about a minute and a half in a little coil I'd set up at the focus point. So I'm going to use that technology to build a system where I can heat water during the day in the wintertime, store it in a metal tank inside the greenhouse courtyard at night, so it'll give off its heat, so when we have these cold nights in the winter, it'll keep the greenhouse from getting below freezing. Right, Beatrice?
And we have cows. All right, let's see. What else is interesting? You have a plant
I do have
out
a plant.
here that's rare, and you've got people from Sol Ross coming out monitoring your plant.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that?
It's called the Terlingua Creek cat's eye. In the whole world, it only grows in a 6-mile radius in this area, this kind of landscape out here in Texas. It's been on the endangered plant list since 1991, pretty much only because it only grows in a small area. And they're trying to figure out why it only grows here. They're not exactly sure yet. The few things they've learned is they like a gypsum soil, or there's some other mineral, which I don't remember what that was, that they like. And they're also extremely poisonous to anything that eats it, so they have no natural predators. So I've got over 900 on my property here alone, so it's a good place for them to study them. And hopefully they'll figure out some miraculous medicinal use for it, and then I'll be a millionaire, or I'll be run off my property because of eminent domain.
Big pharmacy will come and get you.
Exactly. Well, the trick is you don't want a cancer cure. You want a chemotherapy that you can sell.
A
Because if you can
recurring
cure-
income opportunity.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that's how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how much trouble would it be to look at one of those?
Oh, let's see. You want to see a pretty one or just a ratty one?
Oh, I think since we're cutting video here, it should be a gorgeous one.
Okay, well, we'll have to take a little walk over here. This is another one of my webcams here. It's out of commission right now because the cows like to chew on the cords. So I gotta fix that.
Yeah.
It has a little solar panel on top and a little fan to sort of vent it a little bit. So, now, one other interesting aspect of my setup here are these water tanks here. These are set next to a little creek that runs when it rains. If we get over a half-inch of rain, I have a little creek that'll run for about an hour and a half. And I have a gas-powered pump that'll do 3,000 gallons in an hour. So these are all full. Actually, the 3 of them are full. One's about half full, one of the tall ones. And this is going to be extra irrigation water for the greenhouse. Since when the rains do happen, my road gets swamped and I can't leave. Pretty much I'm just when it rains, I'm here to run out and start the pump as soon as I can and start pumping the water and capture it while I get the chance. See, if I was a real Terlingua desert rat, my junk pile here would actually be spread around all around my property.
Yeah, that's a fairly modest junk
But I
pile.
try to keep it in.
I mean, considering the size of your property, you're kind of slacking off.
Yeah. And I only have 3 vehicles too, and they all run.
Uh-oh. That's bound to violate some kind of ordinance.
Yeah. I think a dolly track would be good for this shot here too.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I left the crew at the house. They want triple scale for working out here.
Yeah. So we're coming into the clumps of Terlingua Creek cat's eye now. Here's let's see, we'll find a pretty one. This is one. It's got a couple blooms on it. These bloom once a year, usually in early March. They're a little late this year because of the drought and the cold conditions we had this year. So, in fact, some of these are getting ready to go to seed already. The blooms haven't lasted very long, but long enough for them to get pollinated. So, we shall see. And like I said, I've got over 900 of these growing around out here, of which the grad student at Sul Ross individually counted. So, in fact, she was going to try to GPS each one, but she didn't have a GPS that was quite that precise.
Well, they're just all over the place once you know what to look for.
Yeah. Yeah, when she first came out here, she came with another person from the university asking if they could look for these plants on my land, and I said, well, what do they look like? And they showed me one, and I said, they're all over the place, which they are. But they only tend to grow in these areas that have these rocky, flat areas with no vegetation, and they tend to grow on the perimeters of these rocky areas.
Huh.
So,
persnickety little plants.
yeah.
Just do a sweep of field lab here. All right. What else have you got to show us?
Well, we can. You want to see the big dam?
Big dam.
Big dam. Now this is one of my little watersheds here. When we get rain, I get quite a little stream coming through here. I'd done a rough calculation on the rainwater catchment of my stream here, based on the amount of land the rain's falling on. And about 4 million gallons will come through here, not counting what soaks into the ground during an inch of rain.
4 million. That's a whole lot of water tanks.
More interesting view. This was my first little dam experiment, and this has since all silted up. But I had enough water in there after a couple rains to have a little pool to sit in and pump into a tank.
Now, I don't know how it's going to show up on tape, but the contrast. All right, what's the story on this rock here?
Well, this is, water's probably been streaming through here for a million years.
Yeah,
Putting this down and.
I'm no geologist, but this is fairly interesting the way you've got like a series of plates going on.
Yeah, I don't know anything about geology myself. People ask me what kind of rock this is, and I just tell them it's rock.
Rock, okay.
It's rock. Rocks and fossils. I got a lot of shell fossils on my property. I actually think this is some bones of some kind. I've got to have somebody take a look at this at some point and tell me what that's all about. I really need to find a mastodon. skeleton in here or something. This will be the future field lab water slide ride once the amusement park is done.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about your future plans in a minute. I assumed an amusement park was part of it.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm taking a cue from Michael Jackson. I'm not going to call it Neverland. I'm going to call it Always Land.
Always land. Goes on forever. These shots are framed weirdly. It's because I cannot see the viewfinder.
Well,
And here we have
the big dam is in this canyon here. Got to do some more work on this. I have a friend of mine who's been doing the bulldozing work on this. And this is going to hold back a substantial amount of water. I haven't even calculated the volume, but there's a few people out here that have created little tinajas or water hole areas that catch rain when it does rain, and you can create quite an oasis out here with all sorts of vegetation and wildlife, and if you can just hold the water back, because as you can see, this is just dry as a bone, 3/4 of the year.
I've been out here during heavy rain, though. It doesn't take much.
Yeah. So this is an expensive experiment is what this is, so we'll see if I can hold back some water. There's a woman in the Christmas Mountains that has several pools set up on her property, and she has 30-foot cottonwood trees growing in the middle of the desert, and she's got all sorts of bird activity there. And I sort of took a cue from her when I decided to do this. As long as I had the natural feature on my property, I might as well try to utilize it. So now my jet ski will be parked back in here because this will all be flooded, eventually, and then I can drive out on that. Not so sure about the lakefront condos yet, but we shall see.
I often wonder how you lonesome cowboys get by.
Well, I've been single so long that I'm not really willing to compromise my situation.
Oh, there's so many gorgeous women in Carolingra.
I worked 10 years in the high fashion industry. I've seen enough gorgeous women to last me a lifetime.